Welcome to the Art of Succession podcast with Barrett Young. Join us as we explore the strategies, stories, and insights that shape the journey of leadership transitions and business success. No matter where you find yourself along the journey, this is the podcast where you'll find the tools to make it happen.
If you're like most of our listeners, you love the idea of running the show, but you're constantly second-guessing yourself if you're ready or the person for the job. Are you missing a key skill? Are you aware of the things you need to know, like reading a financial statement or financing the operations of a business? We are here to solve that for you. Our new free Ownership Readiness Diagnostic will rank you from 1 to 4 on 5 foundational pillars of successful business ownership. It is the ultimate confidence builder that will tell you, yes, it is time to have that conversation, or no, these are the areas that you might need a little bit more time to develop. If you're interested in taking that assessment, you can find the link for that down in the description below. Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Joe Curry. If you're interested in watching part 1 of our interview, where we talk through Joe's career development as a financial planner and the identification and acquisition of his financial planning firm, you can find that episode right here. Otherwise, let's get back to our discussion. Okay, so about August 2019, you now own the whole company. You'd only sold a small percentage of the business at that point and started to shift the rest of them away over the past 5 years or so. Talk to me about how your practice had to shift during COVID, and what size were you guys at, and what did that look like pre and then post, and how you talked your clients through that too, just ushered your practice through that as a brand new business owner.
Yeah. So at that time, I mean, when I look back, obviously it was a scary time, but I also feel like it was good for our business in the sense that we just had, like, from a technology standpoint, we're so much further ahead than we ever would have been. I mentioned I don't go to anyone's house anymore. So, I mean, we have 80-year-olds who meet with me on Zoom now, and they're comfortable with it, and it's all good. So it just allows us to be a lot more efficient from that standpoint. Allows us to meet with people more often than if we have to go drive 2 hours to see them. It's allowed us to now add, clients across multiple provinces across the country, which we never would have been able to do in the past. So it did a lot of really good things for us. And another big thing was it's where I really introduced all that education, because I just knew clients needed communication. Like I needed to stay in touch with them, and I could only do so many one-on-one meetings. So that's when I started doing, this started as Ask Joe Anything. It was like, hey, things are scary. I have this time. Think of it like office hours. Just jump on. We're just going to answer questions. So that's kind of how it started. And then as we go, standing monthly webinar every other week. It was basically monthly for most of 2020. Yeah. And then after we kind of got through COVID, then that evolved into now we're like our quarterly virtual client events and education. I don't know if any of that stuff would have happened or be happening right now if we didn't do that. We also created our newsletter through all that. So like all the proactive communication stuff we're doing now really came as a result of COVID, I'd say.
Were you already remote, or have you gone back to the office? Are you remote now still afterwards? What's that look like? You said your predecessor owned the building.
Yeah, so we're actually still in the same building. So in there right now, we have, I have an associate advisor, Kate. I have another, client service rep who's also in the middle. Actually, what day is it today? So tomorrow he's writing his last exam to get licensed. So his plan is to eventually become an advisor. And my wife just joined. She's doing all of our marketing stuff now in the background. So anyway, we can all fit in that office. It's still a good fit. Right now I'm at home though. Like I like doing this stuff at home. When I'm just working on financial plans, things like that, I'm usually coming home to work on this stuff. It's just no distractions. It's a lot easier. And then I'm in the office when we're doing team meetings or we're seeing clients.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're both, at COVID, we were virtual for a bit. So we were able to do that. Like, we lease all of our laptops are leased, and, we can work from anywhere on them. And I just did that because I don't have to worry about security that way. I have someone who's a lot better at that stuff than me. Again, letting the expert be the expert. So we can work in either place, but most of my team, they're almost always in the office. But the odd time they'll be like, hey, I got this thing going on. So I'm just going to work from home today, which is fine as long as we're not seeing clients or they don't need to be there. So we're a little bit of both.
So your shift, I mean, we were 50% because we were deemed essential services. So we were still like mostly 50% in the office, but a lot of our team started where it used to be 1 day a week work from home. They're now coming into the office 1 day a week since then or so. But
I'm the opposite. I go to the office specifically when I'm recording episodes because I like to keep it all there. But for you guys, it was more of a shift of client expectations and client in-person kind of stuff is the big shift then through that whole process.
Yeah, it was. And then the other thing was, though, the staff I had at the time, or not with me now, who had come from my predecessor, they weren't very open to adapting and changing to all the things that we were trying to do. And I eventually actually had to let them both go, which was unfortunate. Now, one of them was really focused, the insurance one was really focused on the group benefit side. There really wasn't a lot of business there. She didn't want to shift into any other part of the business. So that was a big part of it there. And the other one was just, I mean, she was, in a lot of ways, she was really great. But on the same hand, there was like, we just couldn't move things forward. We were really stuck. And also she had said she was going to be retiring for a number of years, and we hired to replace her, and she was supposed to mentor, but then she wasn't actually training and held on to everything. And so it ended up becoming messy. So that's a big warning I'd have for anyone who's a succession plan, is to don't go in assuming that you need to get rid of people, but go in like understanding it may become a reality at some point, and you want to make sure that's maybe taken into account in your agreements, because that also, up in Canada, the rules around severance are a lot more stringent than I think they are for you guys. So it ended up costing me a lot of money, but in the long run, they're doing fine. Business is doing better. Everything worked out, but that was a stressful period to get through for sure, which was kind of right after COVID. We did all that.
Yeah. You also find out how many clients were loyal to the staff person, not necessarily to the advisor that you bought out in some cases. And we're just kind of tolerating the professional for the sake of a really awesome team member. So that's always a surprise to find out.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. So one of the things we also did, I mean, I did so many joint meetings with my predecessor, and what we did was where, maybe the first 6 months, he was the one kind of putting everything out there, like, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what's changed, whatever. And then it just became more or less me running the meetings, and he was just there. But so I think they felt good that he's there, he sees what I'm talking about, but I'm the one doing it all. So he must support what Joe's doing, or else he would say something. And so we were able to do that for a couple of years. So when he ended up stepping back, there was like no one saying, oh, I wish Randy was here. Like some people missed Randy. He was like my predecessor. He was a good guy. They liked him, but I don't think they felt like they were missing out on advice or anything like that.
Sure. Good hands. They're in good hands kind of thing. So, okay, cool. I know you just said your wife has joined you and she's now doing the marketing thing, but I presume over the past 5 years, it's you doing the advising and doing the marketing at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm still driving the marketing, like the direction.
Face of the company kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So really where she's actually a labor and delivery nurse is her background. So she's just taking a step back from there. And it's all coordination, right? So if I do a podcast, she's taking the podcast, getting it to our editors, reviewing the edits, getting it on the social media, putting out show notes, adding it to the website. That's all the kind of stuff she's doing right now. She'll coordinate if we're doing, anything like this. I mean, as a business owner, a small business owner with a few team members, I'm still the one who's driving anything related to marketing as far as the direction or what type of content we're doing, all that kind of stuff.
I know, because we've talked a little bit about this already. You have 2 podcasts now, so that's been part of it. You've got these monthly webinars, you've got quarterly updates, you've got all of this kind of stuff that you've been adding. And then you've also shifted towards exit planning, specifically retirement and exit planning, finished the CEPA designation, everything like that. I mean, what's going through your mind driving all of these marketing efforts? Are you outsourcing any of this stuff to get ideas, or just, I think this is the direction we should head and we're going to test it out and see if it works? Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the ideas go, it's really just for me doing research and reading and, all that kind of stuff. I have, there's other friends in the advisor community through different groups I'm a part of that I know have done well in some of these different areas, from YouTube to podcasting. That's how I got interested in the first place. And then the big thing, so one of our core values in our company is approachability, because we just find that our industry maybe is not always that approachable, and people, I don't know how many times I've sat down with someone who's, done really well for themselves, and they said, I've just never reached out to an advisor because I just felt dumb. Like I didn't know what I don't know, or someone's going to judge me in the way I was doing things. And so that comes back to the podcast. Like, hey, we want to, find different ways for people to find us and come into the business. But on the same hand, why not make this like as a business and more of our core values, like just put education out there and just make specifically retirement or exit planning more accessible to people coming from, hopefully they, people understand the credentials a little bit and know it's a source that can be trusted as opposed to a random TikTok video. So that's kind of really the thinking behind it, is just leading with education. So we just look at our entire process to someone who we're, meeting with on a regular basis, has been a client for 5 years. It really just starts with education, and then to strategy and advice, then to planning and implementation, and then to review, with education just as a continuation. Like I talked about the different virtual education events we do, in the newsletter, the podcast, all that kind of stuff. So education is just it's a really big piece of what we do. And then as far as, getting these things out to the world, that's where my wife comes in. That's where our editor comes in. So I'm not editing video or podcast. It's just none of this would happen.
Tried that one video. I'm like, I can't be doing this on a Saturday during tax season.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not going to work.
Right. So I lean heavily on the taking what I'm putting out there from that piece to the piece that gets posted somewhere. Like that's where I'm not involved at all. I'm just kind of making sure that the end product looks like what I was expecting, and then it's all good.
Yeah. Awesome. Talk to me about that work, or not work. I almost said work-life balance. Talk to me about that work balance. Like, how do you allocate your time as the primary advisor and the one that meets with the majority of the clients, the ones they expect to have that one-on-one time with, and then also the marketing duties and everything that you've got there? How did you find that balance running now 2 podcasts and doing all this stuff?
Yeah,
because I'm still working on it.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I used to ask some other advisors who did this stuff before me the same question, but I'm down. I haven't actually worked a Friday, well, maybe 1 or 2 Fridays in the last 2 years, so it probably makes you more upset. But basically, I've learned from people before me some different strategies around time blocking and big chunks. And so, one of the things we do with our clients is we call it our surge review periods, where we see all of our clients in the spring and we see all of our clients in the fall, but we're doing, like, during those periods, there's no marketing, like nothing else is happening. I'm blocking at the marketing before this period so that it runs through this period. It's already set up, right? So we see all of our clients, and we find it actually works out well because we're seeing them around tax season, and then we're seeing them closer to year end in case we need to make any kind of moves. So like we don't do a Roth conversion, but for example, that might be reason why we'd want to see some at the end of the year. So anyway, we're blocking those times. So we're still seeing all of our clients, and they're actually getting
just more concentrated.
Yeah. And they're getting a better experience from us because we're in client meeting mode when we're seeing our clients, right?
You're having the same meeting over and over and over again in a week.
And it's different.
Switching cost goes
exactly
down.
So yeah, we're not bouncing back and forth. We're just focused. The whole team is in. It's kind of almost like an assembly line getting ready for all these meetings. Clients get a good experience because we're on top of everything we need to be at that time. And then the other thing is we used to meet clients by their birthday and 6 months after the birthday. But then if we missed them at their birthday because they were on vacation or something, then we're into the next month of clients. We'd end up just missing people. But now all of our clients know, like, hey, Joe's going to be calling. So, we're almost to August. So, Joe's going to be reaching out by the end of August to be booking our fall meeting. They know that. And so they're always have that expectation that we're going to be reaching out, so they don't feel like they need to call on every little thing that they probably don't need to call. They're like, it's not urgent, right? So that also cuts down a lot of phone calls when they know when they're going to hear from us. And as I said, we do all that communication throughout the year as well, which again is just more reason for clients to be able to just sit there and wait until the review period. Now, we make it clear to clients, like, hey, you don't have to wait, right? Like, we're going to see you in the spring and the fall, but there's other reasons, like life happens. We're going to see people outside of that. But basically, we have 1 week a month outside of those periods where we see our clients outside an emergency. If there's an emergency, they very rarely happen where it's an actual emergency. I need to see you like this minute. But if that happens, like, we're there. So there's usually a week, a month set aside to see clients. And then that same week plus another week outside of those search periods are when we're also seeing new clients and prospects and working on new financial plans, all that kind of stuff. So then that leaves all those other weeks in between where I'm working on, planning for the business and doing the marketing and working with the team on training and all that kind of stuff. So it's really just everything's in like big chunks where we're just getting, really into whatever it is for this week, and then next week we're just going to be really into whatever the next thing is.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love how organized you are with that. What does your staff do during the downtimes, during your marketing blocks? Because it's not like you say, well, I do marketing 1 day a week and production work 3 days a week. It's more like 3 months and then a month, 3 months and then a month. So what are they doing admin wise during those off periods to prepare or to enact or whatever the case might be?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, it's kind of usually works out every other week. We're either seeing clients or prospects. And so Kate, I mean, she's prepping and doing a lot of preliminary planning for all those meetings. So kind of that off week, I'll be doing marketing stuff. She's doing some preliminary planning and putting things together for the appointments next week that she then hands off to me to go through and finalize. And some of the clients she's looking after herself. Like she has clients that she's just the driver of the relationship. I'm not involved anymore, which has been really nice as well. And then there's just stuff coming up, right? Like, we come out of one of those periods. So this spring we come out and there's about, 4 or 5 households where we need to meet with them separately to update their estate planning. And so we're setting those meetings up. And again, on those weeks we're seeing clients, but she's doing the heavy lifting to get all that stuff prepped. And I'm really more or less kind of looking over and fine tuning, I guess you could say. So and then there's all the people, people need money, got to buy a new car, or, we just sold a business. So we're working with them on that, but she's also communicating when we're pulling the money in and getting the trades taken care of, all that kind of stuff. So, and then Ben he's administering a lot of that. So she's kind of more communicating with the clients. He's doing a lot of the administration on that piece. And then we always have projects. So we run on the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, right? So we have our rocks for the quarter on the projects, the processes, the things we're trying to push forward. So on their downtime, then they're working on those bigger projects.
Yeah, I'm laughing because we have our second meeting, Vision Building Day 1 this Friday. So that was another thing that came out of us attending the Exit Planning Summit. Is I've known about EOS for 12 something years, but we've never actually implemented it. So love to see it. I can tell that organization, the accountability, the rocks, all that kind of stuff has been really paying off for you guys.
Yeah, I would just add to that point, like I think it's really important to have that process because, if I went back to the world before I had EOS, it was, you always have the ideas like, oh, we should do this or we should do that. And then it just never happens. Or there's like a few things you push forward, but this way of having that clear accountability to the team, like, hey, these are the things I'm getting done this quarter. These are the things you're getting done. Then we all know what the priority is. It's not, oh, Joe just had an idea, which is what it was before. Now it's like a documented idea that we have made a plan to get done. And
not just get done, but like follow through with it for the next 6 months to 3 years afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm living in that world. So you have 2 podcasts right now. Your first one, Retirement Planning Simplified.
Yeah. So
is
it's
right?
so the podcast is actually called Your Retirement Planning Simplified. The YouTube channel is RPS or Retirement Planning Simplified. Exactly.
How long's that one been going? And I want to know, like, what's the second one that you've just launched this year is Business and Exit Planning Simplified.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the first podcast and why a second one and not like a series or, 2 playlists within the same podcast.
Sure. Yeah. So Your Retirement Planning Simplified was the original. I started about 3.5 years ago. We've got about 155 episodes, I think, right now. And then there's a bunch of other segments that have been built in there. So we're probably at like 280 if you went through the whole list. And it's weekly, started bi-weekly, and then switched to weekly after about 6 months or so, I think it is. And so it's all about simplifying your retirement. So there's a lot of the financial planning pieces that go around retirement, but we also do a lot of talk around purpose in retirement and staying active and how you're getting social and all the other related things to retirement that are also important to make sure you have a fulfilling retirement because it's not all about the numbers. And then, just as part of what we do with retirement planning and also me being drawn to business owners because I love the business side of what I do. Just naturally, we have more business owner clients coming in as they're approaching retirement. And as I was mentioning to you before off camera, just more and more, I just see business owners coming in saying, yeah, my business is worth X and wanting to use that for retirement planning ahead of the exit. But when the reality is it's just not worth that. It might not even be sellable in a lot of instances, or there's long earnouts that have to happen to make them, actually get the price. So now they're working 5 years longer than they expected. So there's all these scenarios that come up over and over again where people actually don't understand how the business fits into the bigger picture of their future retirement or work optional life, however you want to look at it. And so that's what really led me down this path to get my CEPA designation, Certified Exit Planning Advisor, which is I've had for a couple of years now, and start to go deeper with the business owner clients we have on how can we actually, first of all, understand what your business is worth today. And then how do we start identifying those key drivers that are going to increase the value of your business? And then, just really enjoying that and knowing that content like the podcast is something I like doing. I thought, you know what? I think that there's probably some room there's a lot of retirement podcasts. I think less on exit planning. Obviously, there's some. But yeah, I just thought, you know what, why not put some of this stuff out there to help educate business owners, and who knows, maybe attract some more in the process of doing so.
Yeah, I'd love to find anybody who's like one of their first thoughts is I should do a podcast about this. When we made the shift over to succession planning 2 years ago, I finally had that target market. Like, this is who I'm talking to. And I specifically wanted to focus on stories like yours of succession plans, good and bad, because podcasts are all about founders and entrepreneurs, in my opinion. They all want to talk about the entrepreneur gritting through to build something from nothing. And I'm like, that's not the majority of small businesses. The small businesses are a one-on-one succession planning like you had, that I've interviewed so much of over the past year, that it's like, there's a huge market for this. Just like you said, there's not a ton of podcasts on this, and there's so much space. There can be a solo podcast, there can be interview podcasts, there can be 2 co-host podcasts. There's the retirement aspect, the taxes aspect, so much of this space that's in there because there's so much education needed. Because business owners, we are delusional, and we just think all I got to do is work hard, keep my nose down, build this business, and then I'll be able to retire someday from it.
Exactly.
And you get shocked when you get actually near there and find out, no, you've built a job and you don't have anything that somebody's going to buy. And that's heartbreaking to invest 30 years in and be like, I can't find anybody to buy it. I'm just going to close it.
Yeah, especially business owners who have done well, right? Because the income is high. It's not that there's not income.
Income's great. Why wouldn't somebody want this? Because you're putting in 70 hours a week to get that income.
Yeah. And then when you if you want to replace that income when you're not working anymore, like you have to sell your business for so much, but then, you're just selling a job, which people aren't looking for.
Yeah. Awesome. I mean, Joe, we could go on for a whole nother episode talking shop. Is there anything before we get into the lightning round as we bring this to a close that you wanted to add that I haven't covered yet?
No, I think you've I think the succession, I think we've hit most of it. The Business Exit Planning podcast, really, as opposed to just being focused on retirement, that one's more focused on, so far we've talked with some tax experts. We talked with, or about just how do you understand what your business is worth and how you push the value forward, understanding how the business fits into your retirement, thinking about where it is for us as Canada Pension Plan, CPP, as opposed to Social Security, but how does that fit into the retirement plan, like piecing it back together with the business. So just to give people a bit of an idea of kind of the different things we're looking at on there. And to your point earlier, exit planning sometimes is a scary word, but exit planning doesn't mean you have to sell. Exit planning might mean that, maybe you have a successor who runs the business and you still are an owner in the business, or maybe it's a succession to the next generation, or maybe it's a succession to other employees, or maybe, like you said with the house, I love that you fix your house all up because you want to sell it, but then you say, why do we want to sell this again, right? So sometimes
I love it again. This house isn't a burden.
Yeah, you just do all the planning and you realize all of a sudden you have a business that you enjoy again and you want to keep with it. So it's really just about understanding how to create a business that someone else would want to buy. And then from there, you have options of what happens with it, whether you stay, you get a successor, or you exit.
Yeah. I read an interesting book. I was heading home from Exit Planning Summit a couple months ago, and I can't remember the author's name, but he was one of the presenters there. And it was saying family business legacy is not necessarily this business being passed off to the next generation either, but it's selling this business so the next generation has the capital in order to acquire the business that they want to run. And I was like, I never even thought of it like a family office type of approach to, because you always think family business means, no, you're going to run this restaurant because I ran this restaurant, because grandma ran this restaurant. but sometimes it's positioning the business for, no, we've made it attractive to somebody else, and now you've got, $10 million to go do something with for the next generation. Just interesting perspectives there. Exit planning means so much more than just private equity, get out of here. I'm done. Never want to do another tax return in my life kind of thing. So
yeah, exactly. I would say that's probably more the minority than the majority, right?
Right. Just like founders, they get all the attention. Private equity gets all the attention, and the Main Street deals are quiet and private and not big and bold. So awesome. Yeah, this has been great, Joe. No, not to put you on the spot here, but do you think you'll be coming to Exit Planning Summit next year or any time in the future?
Yeah, I'll eventually get there for sure. Hopefully this coming year, but I would say at the very latest every year after. But I'll now that you've told me how good it is, I'll probably try to be getting there this year.
Yeah, I bought my ticket for next year in Nashville the last day of it when they opened up registration. I don't know what team member I'm taking yet, but I'm going to be taking a team member, and all of our team will become CEPAs. Because I was really impressed by just the focus on value there. So plug for anybody listening, if you are interested in the exit planning designation, give it a look. So awesome. Can we jump into the lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay. Coffee or tea, and how do you like it prepared?
Coffee black.
Pie or cake, and do you have a favorite kind?
So that's a really tough one. I would say that if I had to pick a favorite, it would be my mom makes this ice cream cake that's pretty unreal. I'm not even sure if we can call that cake, but if
it's a cake.
All right, so then there we go.
We eat them in our office for birthdays, so it's a cake. So homemade ice cream cake, though. I've never tried that before. So
yeah, it's a big thing in our family.
Nice. We usually just get like the Carvel ice cream cake kind of thing. Awesome. Do you have a favorite holiday and why?
I'd say it's probably just Christmas, like the whole holiday season around Christmas. I love getting out and doing the holiday lunches and dinners and seeing friends and family. So that's always a favorite for me.
Nice. Okay. Are you a morning person or a night person? And do you have a favorite routine?
Yeah, I'm a morning person, a trained morning person. Probably up to my early 20s, I wasn't, but now I'm up at between 5 and 5:30 every morning. Typically, the first thing I'll do is grab my coffee. I will either read, usually it'll be more audiobook or a podcast, maybe listening to the RX session, something along these lines. And then once I get through the coffee, I'll do a bit of a warm up, and about 50% of days I'll probably go for a run or maybe the gym, but probably a run.
Any particular distance on the runs?
Depends if I'm training to do any kind of a race or anything. Lately,
favorite race distance though?
Well, half. I've just
half.
Cool. Half. But I'm kind of new to the running world. I was more of a gym hockey guy, and so I had some friends who are runners. So I did some Spartan races, and then just did a half marathon. Then recently, so anyway, the routine is switching a bit more to the running stuff.
I'm always switching mine up. I found I finally fell in love with running once I stopped doing 5Ks.
Yeah.
And once you get into a 10K or a half, and you're just like, oh, cool. This is just like a just finish kind of thing. It's not I hope I can get under 30 minutes or 25 minutes race anymore. It's just like,
yeah, sometimes it's nice.
We're in this for the long haul.
Yeah, it's nice to run without any specific goal too, just to get out and go and clear your head. A bit of meditation there too for me.
Nice. Some of my best thinking. I don't run with headphones in usually, just because I like the quiet rhythm and thinking and all that kind of stuff too, typically. So what's a common belief among entrepreneurs that you would want to challenge?
Yeah, I think we already talked about this, but I'll come back to the idea that just because your business makes money doesn't mean it's worth anything to anyone else. I think people need to understand what the difference is between a business and a job.
It's hard to value the business on an ongoing basis, where it's really easy to put a value on, I know how much cash it brought in this month kind of thing. So
exactly.
What is one thing that you would want your successor to remember you for?
I think it's really about going from a transactional business to an advice-centered business.
That you modeled that, or that you're always looking for, is this a transactional relationship, or are we pushing deeper on this?
Yeah, to the point where we don't someone came in and wanted to buy a giant life insurance policy, we wouldn't even take it on. It's everything is, so our process is we do a strategy session. Well, actually pay for a strategy session. We charge them, but then we give them as much advice as we can in an hour. If they like the advice, we think we can help them long term, then we'll go to the next steps and get into investments and things like that. But then that is really, a multi-step comprehensive planning process that drives everything that we're doing from implementation, or like from a recommendation and implementation piece, as opposed to in the past, pre-joining the business I'm in with now, that kind of stuff. It was more, someone's looking for life insurance. Okay, let's go sell some life insurance. Or someone thinks they need a retirement account. Okay, let's go sell the retirement account. Of course, we're trying to do that, always trying to do that in a way that fits their needs. But, I think it's still not ideal looking at everything in a silo like that. I think you just need to step back and try to figure out what are we solving for based on this client's, goals, unique situation, values, all that kind of stuff. And then coming forward with a plan and then implementing products, if that's what makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like getting them all out the door was the first phase, but now not letting them in the door so that somebody else has to do this 5-10 years from now is kind of the second phase there.
Exactly.
But, going against that client, that approach of we'll just upsell them later. No, let's do the work, make sure the upselling is there now from the very beginning before we even bring them in. So
yeah, we actually just had a potential client come in. It would have been a great client from, about to retire, high net worth, ticked a lot of the right boxes for us. But they said, hey, we just want to dip our toes in here. We've been with our other guy for a long time. We like what you're talking about. So we just want you to take this one account and do all the planning. And so, I put some specific guardrails around that. I said, okay, we can start, but basically we have 1 year to be the advisor doing all the planning and looking after this for you, or we just don't think it's a good fit because it's hard to get advice from multiple people and, get the best outcomes. So anyway, they didn't love that we weren't going to be, just transactional and do it as they wanted. So they didn't move forward, but, that's okay, really, because we don't want to, again, get these kind of partial transactional relationships in the business.
Yeah. Awesome. Love it. Where are you finding creativity right now, Joe?
I think it's from the podcasts. We're doing more YouTube now, so I guess I'm getting creative. And how are we putting the podcast together? How am I thinking about that? So it makes sense from a video standpoint. But the biggest thing is just the last few months getting ready to launch Business and Exit Planning Simplified, which launched on July 1st. So we've got a few episodes out there now. But there's a lot going into what do I really want to accomplish with the show? How are we going to present it? What's kind of like the brand of it? So I've had a lot of fun with that. Yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, awesome. It's definitely a font of ideas for me too. I've always got something new. I'm like, we should test this. I actually broke my podcast into 6-month seasons for that specific purpose so I launched last July 1, launched season 2, January 1, launched season 3, July 1 this year. And I'm going to test this for the next season, see if it works, and then adjust for the next season. And that's worked really well for me, because if it doesn't work, then I could just say, well, no, season 2, that change didn't work. We're going to go back with season 3. So awesome. Love it. What do you have coming up in the next year or so that's got you really excited?
Well, I mentioned my wife just joined, so I'm kind of excited about that. It's been nice, a good start. We haven't been together too long, and a lot of people warned us, but so far, so good. For giving us something else to connect on. And so I'm actually pretty excited to see where that goes. We also have another kind of partial transaction we're going to be doing where we're buying a chunk of clients from another advisor. And we were able to kind of go in and specifically find those clients that fit our, close to or in retirement or business owner profile. So I'm excited about bringing that on. Also a little bit stressed because we're going to be maxing capacity to onboard. Like we're set up good to take care of all those clients, but obviously there'll be a lot to bring them all in. And then it goes with setting up a new client account and doing that initial planning and everything.
Nice. Well, it sounds like we just set up our second episode together in maybe a year and a half or so. So when you're ready to talk about it, would love to have you back on. This has been great.
Sounds great. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Where can people find out more about you, Joe?
My LinkedIn, just Joseph Curry in Canada, might be the differentiator there. Retirement Planning Simplified.ca is all our retirement planning stuff. And if you just want the business stuff, Business and Exit Planning Simplified is the podcast. But also if you search that, you'll find it on YouTube.
Awesome. Yep. Those will all be in the show notes. So I just want to thank you for connecting, coming on the Art of Succession. This has been fantastic.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Barrett.
I hope that you've enjoyed this episode with Joe Curry as much as I have. Here on the Art of Succession podcast, we have interviews with new business owners with their own succession stories twice a month. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, you can find the interview form to become a guest down in the description below. If this video has been at all helpful for you, I'd ask that you please share it with somebody else. It really helps the show out. And I want to thank you for watching The Art of Succession.